What would you do if fear wasn't holding you back? What if I told you that fear is the only thing standing between you and your breakthrough? Have you ever felt like you're running in circles, pushing, fighting, believing, but nothing seems to shift? Like every step forward comes with 3 steps back? I came to tell you today, God has already set your breakthrough in motion. But here's the question. Do you believe it? Because the moment you start aligning your faith with His promises, you're going to see doors open that no man can shut. Let's talk about expectation. Expectation is the breeding ground for miracles. Too often we walk around expecting failure, expecting rejection, expecting things to fall apart. But what if you started expecting God to show up? What if instead of fearing the worst, you started believing for the best? Because what you expect is what you prepare for. You see, in 2 Kings 4, there was a widow who was drowning in debt. The creditors were coming to take her sons as slaves. She was at her breaking point. But instead of accepting defeat, she went to the prophet Elisha. And do you know what he told her? What do you have in your house? She thought she had nothing, but she had a small jar of oil. And that oil, it became her miracle. Some of you are looking at your situation saying, I have nothing left. But God is saying, look again, because what seems like not enough in your hands becomes more than enough in God's hands. The widow's oil multiplied because she dared to believe. Some of you are waiting for God to drop the blessing in your lap, but He's waiting for you to use what you have. What's in your hand? A gift, a dream, a vision. It may seem small, but when you surrender it to God, it will overflow. Stop saying, I don't have enough. If you have God, you have more than enough. Let me remind you of Gideon. Gideon was hiding in a wine press, convinced he was the weakest, the least qualified, the most unworthy. But when God called him, He didn't say, hey, weakling. No, He said, a mighty warrior. Because God doesn't speak to where you are. He speaks to where He's taking you. And I don't know who this is for, but God is calling you a mighty warrior today. Stop hiding in fear and step into your calling. The problem isn't that God isn't speaking. The problem is too many of us are tuned into the wrong voices. You've been listening to fear, listening to doubt, listening to what the world says about you. But faith comes by hearing. And if you're not hearing the word of God, no wonder your faith is struggling. Let's get real. You can't expect to live a victorious life when you're feeding your mind with negativity. You can't expect to have faith when you're constantly rehearsing failure. If you want to change your life, start by changing your thoughts. Jesus didn't just preach faith, He demonstrated it. One day His disciples were in a boat, caught in a storm, waves crashing, wind roaring, fear taking over. But where was Jesus? Sleeping. Not because He didn't care, but because He was in complete control. And when they woke Him up, He stood up and said, peace, be still. And the storm obeyed. Some of you are panicking in the storm, but God is saying, why are you afraid? Don't you know who is in the boat with you? If Jesus is with you, the storm doesn't have the final say. Your situation may look chaotic, but God is still in control. I love what Denzel Washington once said, ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. Some of you have been asking God to take away the struggle. But what if the struggle is making you stronger? What if the very thing you're asking God to remove is the thing He's using to build your faith? Look at Esther, a young girl taken from her home, placed in a foreign palace, forced into a position she never asked for. But when her people were in danger, Mordecai reminded her, who knows? Maybe you were born for such a time as this. And in that moment, she realized she wasn't in the palace by accident. She was positioned for purpose. Some of you have been questioning, God, why am I here? Why this job? Why this season? But what if you are exactly where you need to be for God's purpose to unfold? What if the thing you thought was a delay was actually divine positioning? Billy Graham once said, "The will of God will never take you where the grace of God cannot sustain you. If God called you, He will equip you. If He brought you to it, He will bring you through it." Stop doubting what God has already confirmed. When Nehemiah was rebuilding the wall, the enemy tried everything to distract him. They sent letters, spread lies, even threatened his life. But Nehemiah refused to come down. He said, "I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down." That's the attitude you need. When distractions come, when the enemy tries to pull you away from your purpose, you need to say, "I am doing a great work, and I will not come down." Stop giving energy to every distraction, every hater, every doubt. Stay focused. Think about Elijah. After calling fire down from heaven, after proving God's power before an entire nation, one threat from Jezebel sent him running into the wilderness. A man who had just witnessed a miracle was now hiding in a cave, crippled by fear. Isn't that how fear works? It makes you forget everything God has already done. It magnifies the problem and minimizes the power of God. Some of you are running from things that can't even destroy you. Fear is keeping you in a cave when God has called you to the mountaintop. Elijah thought he was alone, but God reminded him, "I still have a remnant. I still have a plan." And He is saying the same to you today. You are not alone. I am still working. Do not be afraid. Fear will convince you to settle for less than God's best. It will have you shrinking back when you should be stepping forward. It will have you saying, "What if I fail?" instead of, "What if I succeed?" But here's the reality. Failure is not the enemy. Regret is. And I'd rather fail trying than live my whole life wondering what could have been. You know who else was afraid? The disciples. The same men who walked with Jesus, saw Him heal the sick, raise the dead, and calm storms. When the soldiers came for Him, they ran. Fear made them run. But guess what? That same group of terrified men became world changers. Peter, the one who denied Jesus 3 times, stood up on Pentecost and preached so powerfully that 3,000 people were saved in one day. What changed? They stopped letting fear control them. Your destiny is too great to be stopped by small-minded people. Your calling is too big to be derailed by fear. If God is for you, who can be against you? God is a finisher. If He started something in your life, He will complete it. Philippians 1:6 says, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion." Stop stressing about how it will happen. Stop worrying about the details. Your job is to believe. God's job is to perform. And I promise you, He never starts something He doesn't intend to finish. So this is your moment. No more fear. No more hesitation. No more excuses. Step into the calling God has placed on your life. Stop thinking small. Stop doubting yourself. Stop waiting for permission from people who don't even understand your purpose. The time is now. Move in faith, believe in God's promises, and walk like the champion He created you to be. So today, I challenge you, shift your mindset. Stop speaking defeat over your life. Speak victory. Speak faith. Speak life, because your words have power. Declare it. I am anointed for this. I am equipped for this. I am chosen for this. No weapon formed against me will prosper. My steps are ordered by the Lord, and I will not fail. God is moving in your life. Even when you can't see it, even when you can't feel it, He is working behind the scenes. Trust His timing. Trust His plan, and keep moving forward. If this message stirred something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, comment, and declare in faith what you are believing for. And remember this, with God on your side, You are unstoppable. Keep pressing.